Hi, Julie. How's it going?
It's going.
All right. Well, we are all ready and we are going to get started right here and right now. I am ready to get into this. Hey, Abby, how's it going? It's good to see you. This is healing your parental wounds and embracing Mother's and Father's Day with a clear heart. So, I think both of you know me, but I'm Amy Colombo, transformative nurse coach, EFT practitioner, and a single mother to three boys. I live in New Jersey, and I've been a fierce, loving mother to my inner child now, two, three, four, for 5 years. For 5 years. My healing journey started 6 years ago. I brought inner child work in about a year in, and it just, I haven't let it go. It's just been really the thing for me and my clients that has brought them to new levels and new heights. So, my intention for today is for you to leave here with a clear heart as Mother's and Father's Day approach. Healing the wounds from your parents is no longer their responsibility, and the power to heal is in your hands. So I really want you to walk away feeling empowered. And since there's just a couple of us, I'm just curious, why don't you share with me, if you want to share out loud, Julie, what is your intention for coming here today? What would you like to get out of today's course?
I would just like to have a clearer sense of, I guess, how and where the wounding came from. I have a pretty good idea, but where the wounding came from, and to be able just to put that to rest.
Got it. Great intention. All right. I think you're going to be pleased. And Abby, how's it going? Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Um,
Share your intention for today.
I just want to be able to forgive what happened to me and I know I can't forget, but I don't want it popping up in every decision, every action that I take, and, um, and being able to find more joy in life.
Okay. Great. All right. I'm going to get started and we're going to, right now, let's just begin by putting our hands on our heart, feeling the feet on the ground, and maybe just closing your eyes with me, taking a couple of deep breaths. Getting present, grounded, centered. There's nowhere else to be but right here, right now. And just giving up that intention to God, universe, the unseen force. Just see yourself actually giving it, asking, making that request. As women, we don't ask for help, right? And that even goes in a spiritual realm. So just giving that intention up and believing and trusting that it will come to pass and just letting it go. All right. And let's just send love to the part in your heart that is wounded, that still carries a wound, because it doesn't matter how old we are. We have that vulnerable, tender part of us inside. And I'm going to be getting into specifically today, we're going to get into, I'm just gonna mute you both while I do the content portion, okay? And just you guys can unmute as we go. It's kind of nice that it's just the three of us, so this could be really interactive. So, you know what? While I'm presenting the content, if you have a question, just go ahead and you can kind of interrupt me. I'll give you permission to do that today because it's just three of us. Or like throw a question in the chat. But today we're going to focus on the mother wound, and tomorrow I'm going to get into the father wound specifically. Okay. So, what is the mother wound? And so many women don't even know that there is a term called the mother wound. So, the mother wound is the term. It refers to the deep pain and patterns that come from our early relationship with our mothers. These experiences shape our beliefs, our behaviors, and our relationships as adults. How impactful is this early relationship with our mother? It's way more impactful than we even think. I mean, when we really get into studies and science and biology of babies and mothers, our relationship with our mother begins before birth in utero. It has been shown that the baby takes in the amount of stress hormone in the mother's body, that cortisol and that adrenaline. And we all know, according to the AHA, yeah, according to the WHO, the World Health Organization, that stress is actually the epidemic of the 21st century. So we're all adding in not just nutrition, sleep, and body movement as our three main core sources of health and wellness and life force, but also stress management. It is important. Stress is at the core and crux of all the dis-ease and ailments in our bodies and our minds that we're experiencing. So it starts in utero, and then when we're born, a baby does not have any kind of separation from the mother for 3 months. We are one. We are completely dependent on mom for life and death, basically. She's responsible. And we know that inherently in our primal programming, and mom feels the pressure of that as well. So, as children, we're completely dependent on our parents for survival. We adapt to our home environment without realizing whether it's healthy or not. Often, we don't know that what's happening isn't our fault or isn't healthy or isn't normal. We are just adapting and surviving. This is what children are doing. This is what we all did. So, what contributes to this mother wound? Well, living in what's called a patriarchal society, and I'm sure we've all heard of the patriarchy, but truly, this just means societies where women are deemed as less than. And when we really get into the history, women were just recently, within the past 40 years, able to open up a checking account on their own, free and clear of either their fathers or their husbands. Like this is very recent. I believe it was the 60s. We haven't been voting all that long. So every generation experiences this based on where they are in history. And we don't realize that we're in it. So whether we like it or not, or even if we're fighting against it, we are in it and it is affecting us and it's affecting our programming as women. And we carry on these patterns and these messages, either overt or covertly, in our conscious or subconscious. Mothers might unconsciously pass on their own unresolved issues to their daughters, leading to subtle aggression, judgment, or passive aggressiveness, chronic criticism of you or others, enmeshment, where boundaries are blurred and you carry your mother's emotional baggage without realizing it, discouragement of autonomy, covert jealousy and rage from mothers towards their daughters. So, as children, we naturally need to get our needs met, and we know this. We know that our lives depend on mother. So sometimes this leads to caretaking our mothers to gain their approval, to please them. And this pattern can persist into adulthood. So we don't know that we're doing this as children, but some of the roles that we might have taken on as children were not really our jobs, but we were put in them. So the five core emotional needs that a child has. And when we ask ourselves, like, the real question of what is a child's job? Like, right, if you think of like my job, your job, I love using that in coaching, but like, what is a child's job when they come into the world? And their job is to learn, their job is to play, their job is to become healthy, well-adjusted adults that can take care of themselves and then eventually contribute to society. Their jobs are not to take care of their siblings and be the second mom in the house or the first mom. Your job as a daughter was not to caretake your mother or be her counselor. Your job as a child in the home was not to be the peacemaker or the peacekeeper. Your job was not to manage everybody else's emotions because maybe you had an alcoholic parent in the home and you just never felt safe and you never kind of knew what version of that parent you were going to get. So you made it your job to make yourself small, to not have needs, to be really quiet. I just got off the phone, just got off Zoom with a one-to-one client, and we went deep into her past, and she has a fear of sadness. She has a fear of sadness because sadness, the big fear is that it's going to lead to depression. And she struggled with depression her whole life. And when we went to the past and we asked the question, like, how did it serve you as a child? Well, it served her because it just made her small. It made her turn inwards. It made it all her fault. And her father was so violent and so unpredictable and so abusive that that prevented pain, that prevented punishment, that prevented a lot of suffering in the house. So we want to have compassion for these things that are showing up in our adult lives that aren't serving us anymore and that are kind of sabotaging us. We all know this, right? Like the pleaser, like holding on to resentments, not being able to let them go, maybe not being able to state our boundaries, not being able to individuate in a way, not being able to prioritize ourselves. Because as children, these things, these ways of being really, really served you. They helped you to survive. So that's the first step to change, is really recognizing how the thing that you don't like about yourself that's happening didn't just come from nowhere. It actually came from somewhere. We are the way we are for a very good reason. So instead of asking like, why am I like this? Why do I keep doing this? It's like, hmm, I wonder what happened to me that I'm like this, right? That's like a little bit more curiosity rather than judgment of like, why? There's always a good reason, and it goes back to your past. And a lot of what we're dealing with can be stemmed back to our mothers. Okay. How does this wound show up in our lives in the present day? So the mother wound can manifest in various ways. Definitely the beliefs you formed about yourself. So we call these our core schemas in coaching and therapy, the core schemas. And these are the ones that I'm unlovable. I'm not enough. There's something inherently wrong with me. I'm not good enough. I need to please in order to get love. All of these are core beliefs about yourself, and these were formed through your relationship with your mother. So just think of how your mother related to you and how she related to herself. And what were those beliefs that were formed, that the child formed about herself based on that experience? Your beliefs about others. So maybe distrusting people or feeling overly dependent on their approval, or overly resistant or scared of the disapproval to the point that as we know, we please, we have those perfection patterns, or we just avoid altogether because it's just too much for our nervous system. We can't deal with it. And we developed those beliefs. They stemmed from our relationship with our mother. So think of your mother, and that was a blueprint for you. The way mom was in the world, the way she behaved, the way she related to other women, the relationship with your father. These are all blueprints. So it doesn't matter that we didn't like something. That's what was modeled for us. So it's even coming out now that way more importantly than what we tell our children, like what we teach them with words, is actually how we're being in the home. They are learning just by watching us. That this is how we learn. Kids are like sponges. One of their main jobs when they come into the world is to play and to learn. And that's why they're learning just by watching. So your beliefs about the world, seeing the world as an unsafe place, or feeling like you need to stay small to be accepted. This stems from your childhood home. Maybe you don't feel like you belong in any room that you walk in. You're kind of always on the lookout, a little hyper vigilant, a little hyper attuned to somebody's face of disapproval, that is your brain looking for the evidence of what it subconsciously believes, that the world is an unsafe place, that I don't belong. And just think of, as a child, if you had to be hyper vigilant, if you were always worried about something happening and you really thought that you had control over other people's emotions, you learned to be hyper vigilant. Some of us learned to be avoidant, to shut down, to not see any, right? See no evil, hear no evil. Some of us were just in these homes where we had to learn how to tune out and maybe dissociate. Because if you're a child and you have no other defense, like you can't say, and we can't say no as a child. We're not allowed. We were not allowed to say no. So, this person that, and just think of when you really get into a child's minds, that a child has an inherent primal knowledge of that this big person keeps them alive and can kind of keep it going or sort of take them out. And we have that primal animal instinct within us. So again, we have to learn how to, if we had to meet their needs to get our needs met, that's the adaptation that we took on as children. And this is why when I talk about the inner child and healing the inner child, there's the authentic inner child. It's how you were born into this world, authentic and free and believing you could do anything and feeling fully capable and confident. And then there's the wounded inner child who carries those core wounds from childhood. Your beliefs about God. So feeling disconnected from a higher power or unworthy of spiritual support. A lot of children go through this. They have a spiritual wound, because if you were going through something really hard, you may have been asking yourself the question, like, where's God in all of this? And based on your religious upbringing, like I was raised Catholic, you would have some kind of idea that I must be a sinner or I must be bad to deserve this kind of treatment. And you might have some resentment with the unseen force. These patterns can affect your romantic relationships, your friendships, and your parenting, because there is a part of you, a wounded part of you, that is still trying to get her needs met from childhood. So, this is where I say the inner child can sabotage your adult relationships because she's looking for the love that she never got in childhood. And this is when women will tell me that they attract in the same person, different name, right? Different relationship, but it's the same person and it's the same pattern and it keeps showing up relationship after relationship. And you may be attracting in someone who reminds you of dad or someone who reminds you of mom, or maybe a little bit of both. But there is that child that is trying to get her needs met. And subconsciously, you may say, like, I was emotionally neglected. I want someone who's emotionally attuned, who can meet my emotional needs. And what we don't realize is we may say that and we may be conscious of that, but in the subconscious is attracted to what is familiar to it. And it doesn't matter if it's good or bad, it's just attracted to what it's familiar to. So just notice that. Notice, like, what types of people you're attracted to. There's little patterns, there's attributes about them, both positive and negative, that you're attracted to for a reason. What are some of the subtle signs of this mother wound? So some of the subtle signs are feeling drained after interacting with your mother, just being chronically annoyed with your mother, experiencing stress, obligation, or triggers related to your mother, noticing tension or discomfort in your relationship with her. And these are some of the subtle signs. I don't know, um, like I know for me, I've done a lot of work on this healing the mother wound, and I I didn't realize how I was chronically angry with her all the time, well into my 40s. And that's a sign that there's a mother wound there. And when I let that go, there was a little bit of a weirdness there. Like I didn't even know how to relate to her if I wasn't angry with her. and had to really figure that out and reimagine the relationship and what it looks like. So, how do we heal? The real meaning of forgiveness. So, forgiveness is often misunderstood, and it's not about excusing harmful behavior. I like to ask for my clients that will tell me, oh, I've forgiven my mother. So, if anyone ever tells me that, that's a red flag to a coach. Like, oh, I've forgiven my mother. No, that's not real forgiveness. That's actually the misinterpreted forgiveness, that kind of childlike, like, say you're sorry, okay, it's okay, right? And we just kind of let them off the hook. But forgiveness is a healing journey for you. That's what it is. And it's not about forgiving that other person for them. It's about forgiving yourself of what you're still carrying in yourself, in your adult body, in your psyche from the mistake they made. So that's how I like to say it. So, what you're still carrying, let's say you had an abusive mother, let's say you were sexually abused, let's say there was a big T trauma here that happened and you're working on forgiveness, right? I want to forgive my stepfather. I want to forgive my mother. Okay, let's pull that back. You want to forgive yourself. You want to forgive that child that's carrying the shame, that's carrying the burden. That I can't tell you how many women are carrying shame in their subconscious. It's kind of blind to them. They can't even see it. They made it their fault. Still, women in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. I worked with a young woman, a 27-year-old nurse, on becoming unapologetically herself. And she was experiencing a block in the bedroom with her husband, who was a wonderful man and she loved. And she felt inhibited. And then she would dissociate. Um, anyway, we were in a session and we got to this, point I was asking her questions and we came to she was sexually assaulted at 15 at a party. She was drugged and she woke up and she was raped at 15 years old. And when we got there, she didn't even know. She said, well, it was my fault because I was 15 and I snuck out of my house and I wasn't supposed to be there. And it's not just what happened, it's the before and the after. She told her sister who was at the party with her, and her sister completely freaked out in denial and told her that she didn't know what she was talking about, right? So I told someone, they denied it. I just covered it up in shame and held it secretly and made it my fault. And here it is being hidden and kept in her subconscious, and she's still holding on to that. So I tell you this because when we tapped into it in that session and we let it come up, there was a rage in her, like a real rage. She was so angry when she came to the truth. So holding it in that way, making it our fault, is a form of protection. Our psyches do that because they can't handle the truth. The truth is too painful. And as children, a lot of times, not a lot of times, all the time, children are making everything their fault because it's too painful to believe that, like, mom or dad are bad people or are not right. It's they believe they're a bad person, right? That makes sense, right? I'm rejected by God, or there's something wrong with me that I'm unlovable. I even brought like a 50-year-old woman to her inner child, and her inner child, when we let her speak, she was just like, why didn't daddy love me? Like that was her question. Why didn't daddy love me? Right. And when we went to the empowered woman, it's like, oh, honey, like we need to come to the truth that you grew up as an unloved child. Like you believed at your core you were unloved. And that is the wound there. But she's thinking, like, what's wrong with me that daddy didn't love me? There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with any of us. So forgiveness, forgiveness is dropping into the pain and allowing yourself to grieve, to grieve the truth, to go back with empathy and compassion for you and your experience alone in that, not making it about anyone else. So, believe it or not, healing the mother wound isn't about your mother, it's about you. And what blocks a lot of women from healing is this guilt or shame in I'm disrespecting my mother in some way, or I'm blaming her in some way. And I want to say that there is a spectrum of healing. So we start off, let's say, on this end, and it's in denial. So we're holding it in our subconscious. Maybe we kind of know something's there, but we're not sure, and we're really afraid to go there. And then when we go there and we drop in and we go to the truth and we bring it up and it comes out of your subconscious, it may unlock a lot of memories that you've been holding in. Little bits and pieces might come in. You might just all sorts of things might happen, but you will come to a truth and you may go straight to the other side of the spectrum. You may be really enraged, like my client was. And nothing's gone wrong here. This is where people get really confused and they think that something's gone terribly wrong because it doesn't feel good, right? This is why you've been avoiding it. So then when we go to this end, we kind of need to go there because you have been taking 100% responsibility for what happened to you. And we need to give responsibility back to their owners. And part of that process is going to the other side and getting really mad and enraged. And this is the part where we release your rage and your anger. So we have a healthy outrage. It's called embracing a healthy outrage. And there are ways of doing this with a coach, with a therapist, even in the woods on your own. They have all sorts of things nowadays, but there are healthy ways because anger is an emotion. And like any other emotion, it's energy in motion and it just wants to be seen, heard, and released. And you don't need to release it onto the other person. We're not calling out mom and cursing at her. Maybe we actually need space from mom in this period of the healing journey, right? And that is actually okay and healthy for you. You need to be able to give yourself the permission to take that space and really release this rage, just like my client that wanted to release that rage. And when we did that in the session, we moved, we did a somatic body movement and we let her scream and yell and curse and get that out. And this is one of my most like amazing transformative stories because in just that one session that we did that with that 27-year-old young nurse, she had a complete shift after that. She felt better than she ever had. She felt more confident in her body. She had a pain on intercourse, and she didn't even tell me this. This is not something she told me. She had a pain on intercourse for many years that would show up in mid-coitus, and it completely resolved and just like went away on its own. Not even something that we were looking to, but it was because she was holding on to that trauma. And she had a situation at work where she couldn't speak up. That was the other thing that we were working on. She was finding her voice. She was able to find it. She was able to step fully into who she was after we dropped in and discovered the truth and released that healthy outrage and released that burden. Because a lot of people think, I don't want to go back there. And you know what? You need to tune in and trust your intuition. Being afraid to go back there, being scared, being anxious is normal, okay? Because it is an uncomfortable situation. It's been laying dormant and you've been avoiding it for a very good reason, right? It's been protective. So to go in and open that up is going to be painful. So a little anxiety, a little fear is normal. But if you're feeling an intuitive like hell no, like I'm not willing to go back there and feel those feelings, then you want to honor that. But after we go here, after we drop in, the interesting thing is so many people think mom needs to apologize, mom needs to own her behavior. They need to they need to. No, the good news is they don't need to do anything. And I just want to share that I've healed, I've done all of this work with my parents, and my dad is deceased. So I have a I have a very healthy relationship with my father now in the afterlife. He's actually one of my protectors. It came to me in a mindfulness that he was one of my protectors, like one of my guardian angels. And I initially was really angry that it was him, and I wasn't happy. But I have a good relationship with him now, and my mother is still alive, and I have a more authentic relationship with her. Okay, because I have done the work to individuate from her, to no longer be her mother, right? I took rightful place as the adult daughter in that relationship. My mother was always someone who was very dependent and needy and kind of invisible. And there was this sort of unspoken agreement that, like, I was going to take care of her at a certain point in my life. And I was able to do the work and break free from all of those familial, societal, unspoken, projected agreements. I was able to really stand tall and free, take my time, heal, and decide who I wanted to be and how I wanted to be. And that's really what the journey is to healing. It's being brave and separating yourself from mom, understanding how her thoughts, her trauma, her experience was projected onto you. These silent expectations of making yourself small, of believing that you're not enough. A lot of the forgiveness work that we have to do is forgiving ourselves for buying into these limiting beliefs, maybe for believing that things were your fault. I have to forgive myself for that. I have to forgive myself for believing that I need to meet everyone else's needs and that I come last. I need to forgive myself for the shame I carry from the emotional neglect I received from my mother. I need to forgive myself for making, right? A lot of times we make one parent a villain and we make one parent an angel. And when we start doing this work, we start to see that there was a dynamic between both parents and that they both had a part in whatever abuse or whatever it was that you experienced. They say that all mothers know that their kids are being sexually abused by their dads, whether they know it consciously or unconsciously on some kind of a level. Um, and again, this takes bravery of going back and looking at it with a fresh set of eyes, not these glasses of denial or protection or making it about mom. We want to go back and make it all about you. Your healing journey is yours. So we want to see, hear, and validate that child and not make her wrong for feeling. It's important to establish healthy boundaries with your mother, even if she resists, and get out of enmeshment. So, like, calling mom twice a day, having that kind of a relationship is a little bit enmeshed. A lot of daughters get caught up in like an enmeshed kind of relationship with their mother, and that is not healthy. We want to kind of individuate from that. We want to be able to set clear and healthy boundaries and stop doing things out of a sense of duty and obligation. That's really the goal, is to get out of what am I doing out of this sense of guilt or duty or obligation. And something that a lot of daughters experience when they go through this is guilt. That is one of the biggest feelings. And I want to say that guilt is a part of your healing journey. So if mom is still alive, when you pull back, when you decide to set these boundaries, take a little bit of space, you're going to feel guilt. But what I like to say is that's okay. That comes with the territory. That means that you're actually learning how to hold space for mom's disappointment or discomfort with you having boundaries for yourself, right? So basically, what guilt is like, oh, I'm making her feel bad. I'm doing something bad to mom. But we want to turn it around and say, is this loving for you? Is this good for you? And start acting from that place. So it's not about making mom mad or making mom sad. Mom's feelings, mom's healing is her responsibility, not yours. And a lot of us have made mom our responsibility in some kind of a way. We really want to break free of that. Bethany Webster, she is the guru on the mother wound. Okay. And she was asked, what is, where is it? Hang on a second. Ah, what is the best way? What is the best way to mother our own children and break free of this cycle and be healthy mothers? And she said, to mother your own inner child. That resonated with me so strongly because when you do inner child work, when you take full responsibility for that vulnerable part of yourself, you start meeting her needs rather than expecting everyone else to do it for you. It's not their job, it's yours. When you start meeting her needs, when you start mothering that child within, all of a sudden you're showing up in your parenting shoes as the adult and not the wounded child fighting with your children, because that's what's happening. That's what we experienced. Mothers, parents project all of their fears and insecurities and doubts and unhealed trauma onto their children. And it's different for every sibling. So just know that your siblings can't confirm or validate your experience. Only you can. Every sibling, even in the same home with the same parents, has a different experience based on the fact that each child has their own temperament and personality pattern and comes into the world that way, as well as based on when the timeline of when a mother was mothering. She's a different mother to the first child that she is to the second, that she is to the third, right? There's a different timeline in her life. And just how she's relating to that child and what that child is showing her that is unhealed within her. And those of us that are mothers know this. I have three children, and I happen to have one that triggers me the most, and he's the one most like me, which is always interesting. I'm always kind of objectively looking at it from a place of curiosity now and noticing how, wow, you really would think you had the most compassion for the child that reminds you the most of you. And it's actually the opposite. It's like when you see these parts in your child, these parts that you don't like about yourself, right? Like my disorganization, my lack of time management, my ADHD, my anxiety, my rage, my when I see that in my child, I'm just like, oh my gosh, because we've done so much work to hide or fix or get rid of these parts of us. And then our children are just like, they're like mirrors. So you're getting triggered and you don't even realize that you're relating to your child in the present as this wounded child from the past. So when we mother ourselves and we learn to really build up that whatever it was you needed. And I always love to ask, like, what was it you really wanted? I just asked a client this the other day. She's going through this. She's kind of in the middle. It's really hard. She's going through a grief process and she was crying. And I just said, what did you wish your mother would have said to you that she never said? Like, what do you wish? And she said, like, I wish she would have just said, like, I got you. Like, it's okay. It's okay. I've got you. Like, I never heard that from my mother. And that's what I always wanted to hear. So I was like, okay, say that to your own inner child right now. And she did. And it was a really profound, transformative moment for her. She talked about it a few days later. But what we don't even realize is that we can create that mother archetype inside of ourselves now. And it's actually up to us. So if you wanted a teacher, if you wanted an unconditional lover, if you wanted like that always saw the good in you, always believed in you, right? Like knew you could do it, saw your capability, even when you were down and out, like that person that could sit with you on the feelings bench, right? And didn't shun you away when you cried, maybe comforted you. That's the kind of inner mother archetype that you can create and be for yourself now. Okay. So, as we conclude, I just want to know if you guys are okay over there and any comments or questions or concerns.
I'm just sitting here thinking, I'm listening to what you're saying, and I'm thinking back. Uh, just so everyone knows, my dad passed in 2019. My mom just passed in December of last year. But just thinking about all of the things that things that are coming up now as we talk about this stuff from the past, and some of the stuff I think I can probably relate to, as far as, I don't know, I wouldn't necessarily call it rage, but just anger, maybe just I don't know, anger, frustration, like where did that come from? Some of the things that she said more recently, like where did that come from? And I can't help but think, I never did ask her, but I can't help but think that maybe she got those sort of questions from her mother. Um, but just, I don't know. It's just got me thinking, and
Yeah.
how to approach the feelings that come up now, how to approach those in a more caring, compassionate way to my inner child that I'm learning how to do now.
Yeah. And the way we feel is we just feel the feeling. We allow ourselves to go there. Just notice because just notice how every time you feel something uncomfortable, we all do this. We all have a pattern, and a lot of times it's really quick. We have some kind of a protective pattern that doesn't let us feel something vulnerable. And right, Julie, you know what your pattern is, right? You're learning that. Abby, do you know what your pattern is to not feel?
I avoid feelings. I I've moved from the denial part uh, into the truth part, and my feeling is anger that um, I think it's not so anger at my mother because I think she probably just had some mental health issues, and we always kind of walked eggshells around her like she was so fragile. But I think it's more guilt, not that I was holding as an inner child. I did have a lot of guilt if I messed up and made her upset, things like that. But I recognize that now that happened. It took me a while to even look at it without wanting to throw up. But now I
Mm.
can approach that. But my guilt now has spread to my own children of how did I spend all these years avoiding that, not working at it, how it affected me so much more than I thought it did, and how have I screwed up my own kids? That's where I'm at right now.
Mhm. Yeah. And we don't want to say this to cause more shame for mothers because I think mothers are already under the gun for a lot. Part of this work, Abby, really is just connecting the dots. And I do want to say it will bring up your own. So not only will you grieve these wounds from the past,
Mhm.
you will grieve your mistakes as a mother too. So they're so connected that even if your child triggers you in the present moment, I can't tell you how much work I do with women where something's triggering them in the present with their kid. It always goes back to childhood and they're behaving the same way their mother did. They're saying the same things their mother said, right? I've caught myself in this cycle. It is just a constant awareness. So what I want to say is forgiveness. We learn that we're not perfect. Our moms were not perfect. None of us need a perfect mom. We just need someone who's willing to be there with us. We needed what we needed and what kids need is safety and security. Okay, these are our five core emotional needs that all kids need and all adults need: safety and security, autonomy and control, okay, connection and belonging, self expression, and limits and structure. So just think of how your childhood home was. And right, even you saying like we were walking on eggshells, right? We didn't have much self-expression there. We didn't have autonomy and control, right? Connection and belonging, we had to conform to connect and belong. Um, a lot of people feel like the black sheep in their childhood home. Like a lot of generational pattern breakers, a lot of people that are doing this kind of work generally are the black sheep in their initial home. So just think that no human can meet 100% of another human's needs at any given moment. So we want to like give ourselves a break for what we didn't know. We didn't know what we didn't know. And I do want to say that healing positively impacts our kids at any age. And I want to do a little experiment with you both because Abby, how old are you, Abby?
I'm 73.
73. Okay. And Julie, you're 66?
Yes.
Okay. So just think of you're 73 and you're 66, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just imagine you can maybe can put your hand on your heart and take a deep breath in, roll those shoulders back. And just imagine your mother comes to you today, this day and age, and just says, "Hey, I've been doing some thinking. I've been doing some work, and looking back, I realized that I made some big mistakes and that there were some times that were really hard for you. And I just want you to know that I'm sorry. And if ever you want a safe space to talk about it, I'm willing to listen, not to defend myself, not to justify what happened, but just to really hear you out and hear what it was like for you back then." Now, if your mom said that to you today at 73 and 66, how did that land?
It feels good. It's kind of shocking
Right?
because it's not something that we say, but it's like, wow, that would be awesome.
At 73 years old.
Mhm.
Yeah. We can't turn back time. We can't go back. So the grief process does involve, grieving what was, the truth of what was, the truth of what never will be, the truth of what we lost out on. A lot of times we're grieving this ideal of our mother ever changing, the mother we wished we had, the childhood we never got. This healing forgiveness process involves us going back and doing that real deal grief work and then taking that control and moving forward and finding the way forward from here. Because I 100% am sold on it's never too late and you're never too old. So, like I said, if your mother came to you and just said that, right, Julie, how did that feel when we dropped in and I said that, thinking of your mom, if your mom were to say that to you today?
Well, I can share that over the more recent past years, she did apologize. She said she was sorry about the way she handled things or didn't handle things. Um, And it would have been nice if I thought that she would have wanted to hold space, and maybe she did, for me to sort of follow up with my thoughts and feelings about that. But it wasn't offered. And I've just always thought that for me to say what I needed to say, felt like I needed to say to her, would make her feel that much more guilty about how how things were, and things that she didn't do, that maybe would have helped, like an I'm sorry, or um just, I don't know. I just always felt like it would make her feel worse. She was already apologizing, but it would make it feel worse if I were to sort of expand on that. And so I didn't. I accepted her apology, but I didn't ever feel comfortable sort of sharing with her, what sorts
Yeah.
of things I went through and the feelings with it.
What you just explained is the reason why I thank God that He created us to heal without them owning anything, apologizing, because the truth is only we can heal when we're ready. That is the truth. And what you just explained is there's a difference between a real healing conversation and opening up that space, right? For you to share with me what it was like. It takes a really strong, emotionally solid, strong mother to be able to hold that kind of space for her child. And not all mothers can or are capable of it. So, um, I just want to say that I have a living mother and I've done all my healing work without her, and even some of my aunts and my whole family knows because I shared that I'm an abuse survivor and I came out to the family. Um, my mother never had any questions for me. She just pretended like it didn't happen. And that's my mother showing up as my mother. Like she's been consistent, right? So this is another thing, like when we kind of grieve this ideal mother that we never got, that we always wished we had, and we realize like, oh, it's me. Like I get to be that mother to myself now. It's my job, it's my responsibility. That empowers you, but it also it's an interesting realization to realize how mom's been really consistent with who she is my whole life. Like she's never really she's always been this way, right? Like she hasn't really changed. And I've been suffering, wishing she was someone different, or hoping she'll show up different one day, or right. And when you really like realize that and it kind of like snaps in your body and it integrates, it's such a freedom. It's such a freedom, and it's actually a letting go. So acceptance is equal, like I could put an equal sign, acceptance equals letting go. There is a letting go. We no longer have that attachment to mom giving us something or being somebody different. It's like mom was mom. And once we get there, that's really where the freedom is at. And we can reimagine what, if mom's still alive, what a relationship looks like her, an authentic one with boundaries and what's healthy for you. And yeah, so I just wanted to bring you through that because I wanted to show you the truth of that. It really is never too late. And no, we can't go back. Our kids can't be 5 years old again. We wish. We may need to grieve that over and over. And I will just say, as a mother who still lives with all three of her kids, I do get triggered every once in a while for some of the mistakes I've made because I've made some really big owies with my kids. And I let it in. I let myself cry. I let myself be angry with myself. Like I let myself have those feelings and I move through them and I get to the other side of them. So So when you start doing this, your feelings don't wipe you out for days anymore like they used to, right? Because that's what we're afraid. We're afraid of getting like stuck in a feeling because we all know what it's like to get stuck in a feeling and to not be able to get out of it for like days or weeks. But when you start really meeting your emotions in this way, letting yourself feel them, right? Letting myself drop into that grief again, not making myself wrong. So if I, in 3 months again feel grief and regret for something I've done to my 9-year-old, I let myself feel that. I just let myself go there. I have my cry. I use my tools, my EFT tapping. You can use mindfulness, whatever you need, and you intend to move through it and get to the other side, and you forgive yourself. So you may need to forgive yourself like over and over and over again, but the beauty is this is a practice. You're practicing forgiveness, you're practicing self-love, you're practicing self-compassion. And when we do this with ourselves, it naturally overflows onto others. So again, the quote I was bringing in from Bethany Webster was, how do I parent my children? How do I break this cycle? And it's through mother your own inner child, right? When I can be that force for myself, I can show up differently as a parent. And yeah, I can say that that's really been the experience in my home with a lot of my clients. All right. Well, that's it. We're right at an hour. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Okay.
All right. Well, we're gonna meet again tomorrow. We're gonna go through the father wounds, which is a little different, um, and a little similar at the same time. And I just want to let you both know, Julie, you're already coming, but Abby, I am hosting an Inner Child Healing virtual retreat weekend, May 2 to 4. And this is going to be an immersive weekend experience in a container with me and other people on the same journey. And I would just love for you to come in. I want to invite you in. And I'm going to send an email after tomorrow, and it will have the information and a coupon code to get $100 off. And I would love for you to join us. I think it would be really nice if you're feeling ready.
Okay. Thank you.
All righty. Right. So I will see you both tomorrow at the same time.
Okay.
All right. Bye,
Bye bye.
ladies.
Bye bye.